Hello, everybody who has joined us in the Intelligent Dentistry Facebook group. I'm super excited with today's guest. When we set out to create these episodes for you here in the group, we did it with the intent to obviously add extreme value to you as a dental professional and definitely relevant to the lens that you look at and work through in dentistry. And today I've got a very, very good friend of mine and colleague and definitely a dental influencer, and that is Dr. Brian Harris out of Arizona. Brian, welcome to the show this morning.
Thanks, man. I think every time we get together, I feel like, I walk away from the conversations like feeling totally uplifted with like a new mindset of how I want to go back and do things in my practice. And so I'm excited. I'm excited to see where this goes this morning. And hopefully we can bring some value here for everybody.
Oh, I have no doubt, and the feelings are mutual. In fact, before we get started, for all of our viewers, just to give you a little bit of history here, Brian and I met, about 6 months ago now, through a mutual friend, Elijah Desmond here in the industry, made that introduction, and we just hit it off immediately. I felt like I was talking to an old college buddy. And we started dialoguing back and forth, and Brian came into Utah and spent some time at the dental intel offices. I think what was supposed to be like a 30-minute meeting, maybe 45-minute, turned into like a 2.5-hour meeting. We had some really, really good conversations about all kinds of stuff. What's cool is we talked about life and being a dad, and we talked about dentistry, and we talked all kinds of hobbies, all kinds of good stuff. So we were able to build that relationship there. And then also I had the blessed opportunity to go out and spend time with Brian and his mastermind in San Diego just a couple months ago. And I'll tell you, like, top quality guys, top quality dental professionals, an amazing group of people who are just aspiring to be better at what they do, and not only in dentistry, but in all aspects of life, which I thought was just so awesome and rewarding to kind of sit in the back of the room and see all of that happening. So I commend you for not only growing them as dentists, but growing them as people.
Yeah, let me comment on that real quick, because, and I know I don't want to hijack the conversation with that, but for me, it was so awesome to sit back and see, a room of 20 doctors, like, you like blew their minds by sharing with them those reports and showing them like, hey, is amazing as they were already doing, because this is a group of pretty successful doctors, but to be able to show them like hundreds of thousands of dollars just like sitting there, like for theirs to take if they could see things differently and if they could look at their business a little bit differently. So that was cool. I've never seen that done before live. And so to see that happen, it showed how much power the dental intel, software and process has in really transforming practices. So I thank you again for doing that. That was very, very cool.
Awesome. Right on, brother. Well, hey guys, today we've got some awesome concepts and content we want to cover. Let me tell you a little bit first about intelligent dentistry. Really, when we set out to create this, it was effective business practices meet clinical standards, and that is intelligent dentistry. This world of dentists being healthcare providers and wanting to take care of the patient in that sense, which is 100% what they're there to do, sometimes gets uncomfortable with the business aspect side of things and understanding that there is a transaction that has to happen. But that's not to say that you have to put the relationship or the care of the patient any less than what it should be. And so today we've got, Dr. Brian Harris, who's going to walk us through a couple of things regarding patients and bringing patients into the practice. And is there such thing as the optimal patient? And if so, how do we find those optimal patients, or how do we begin to fill our practice with these optimal patients? So I'm going to put you on the spot here, Brian. What do you, how would you define intelligent dentistry when you look at that slide that's popping up right now?
Well, I was actually thinking a lot about that. So when you asked me to come on here and kind of talk more about, the initial stages of like, how do you find the right patients? How do you market to them? How do you get them in the practice? How do you connect with them? and you told me the topic was intelligent dentistry. To me, that is something in the last 16 years I've been in practice, like that is something that keeps coming back to me, this idea that there is a more intelligent way to practice dentistry. Like the way we've always done things, is just the way we've always done things because that's how we were taught. And when you can see things differently, when you can kind of get a new perspective on how to run your business, it's wild how much more room there is for growth. And so when I think of intelligent dentistry, I think of that. I think there's two sides. I think there's the side of dental intel of like intelligence and like intelligence in numbers of like, hey, when you can see all these things, when you can see the insides of the business and understand it, it allows you to operate a business in a much more intelligent way. And then I combine that over here with, hey, if you can see a more intelligent way to connect and communicate with people, in a more intelligent way to really, help serve them at the highest level, it allows you to do more of the dentistry you love to do. And in turn, these numbers go up. And then, so I think there's two aspects of how do you get like emotional intelligence in the practice and with patients, and then also how do you get an intelligent practice with numbers.
Hopefully. Awesome, man. I love it. No, you're good, spot on. So to lead into kind of the first question I want to start this off with, for those that aren't familiar with the profitability formula here at Dental Intel, this is a simple formula that through hundreds of conversations, what we were realizing is that there were a lot of dental professionals that there wasn't a simple way for them to look at the big picture of the practice. There's so many moving parts inside of a practice that involve obviously taking care of the patient, and then the business aspect of things, the money aspect of things, the collection of the money, and then at the end of the day, hoping that there's something left over. And so we trademarked a formula that we call the profitability formula. And what that is to increase profits, we got to start at the very beginning, and that is visits. And there's multiple ways that we can increase visits into the practice. Well, if we increase the visits, then what's happening while they're visiting, right? And so we now move into the next variable of that formula, and that is production per visit. And what is all the treatment that is being done as that patient is coming into the practice. Now, once the treatment is completed, now the question is, what do you collect? And as you're collecting, there's going to be variables that are within that, such as insurance, and are they paying cash, and are they being financed, whatever that may be. But you have to be aware of what you're collecting, obviously, with that. And then, of course, your overhead. Now you're minusing your overhead, and that leaves you with profit. And so I'm gonna turn this over to Brian and just let him go here. I'm excited to hear this content, but I know that you typically start with every patient wants to know a couple things. And as we're talking about new patients coming into the practice, kind of share with us your methodology with that, knowing they need to know these three things if something is going to transact with you, if they are going to accept some type of treatment while they're there at your practice, if they're going to become a patient of yours.
Yeah. And I put together just a couple slides. I won't bore everybody, but I think it'll help kind of illustrate the process. I want to step back really quick because you said something I think is really important in this process. And within that formula, when I first saw your profitability formula and how simplified it was, it just made sense. And I was immediately more, attracted to the left side of the profitability formula, right? Because there was a time in practice when I was literally trying to find out where we could buy the cheapest etch and cotton rolls. And I was like, we need to save so I can take home more money. And a mentor of mine was like, hey, or you could just figure out how to produce more. And he's like, you can take home 10 times as much. But he's like, it's up to you. You can try to save on cotton rolls, or you could figure out just how to drive these numbers at the beginning of the profitability formula. So that's what we'll kind of focus on this morning, because to me, that's where the most potential is. But, you mentioned the three things. So I believe the three things everybody wants to know at the end of the day is, who do I trust? Like, what are my options, and what is it going to cost? Okay. Another way to say that is, can you help me? What's the process? How much will it cost? However you frame those three questions, it's all the same. People are looking for a dentist they can trust. Nowadays, there's so many, good dental offices out there, and there really are. They just have no idea like where to start. And so they get confused. But then a lot of them also are just, have a lot of confusion around the process and the actual fees and how does it work? And then really just like, how much does it cost? So being transparent with patients and helping them see those things like right away builds like ultimate trust with the patient. Because now they know who you are. They know kind of what kind of office you practice in, what kind of office you run in, and they have an idea of what your fees are going to be before they even step foot in your practice. Okay. And I know that's going to freak some people out when they hear that. Tell me your thoughts around that, Jeremy. I mean, when you think of, helping people see these things before they even come in, letting them know your fees, letting them know a little bit more about who you are, do you see value in that?
I do. However, I also think that's largely dependent on the mindset of the patient. Because if I'm in enough pain and I'm trying to get in and get something squared away, and that pain might be emotional pain or that might be physical pain, for me personally, price at that point kind of becomes a back burner thing, right? It's like, just get me in. Like, do I trust you? Does it make sense? Can I get rid of this today? All right, I'm coming in at 3. I want to get it done, right?
Yeah.
Where I think that a lot of times we would hope every patient feels that way. If they're coming in to have a big case done, I would imagine that they're looking at it saying, okay, I'll just get it done. But a lot of people aren't, the pain isn't strong enough for them to overlook the price. So I think that would be really the mindset of the patient.
Yeah. So I think, really you can almost separate it in 2 categories. One is like exactly what you said. It's the convenience factor, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'm like, I don't care who changes my oil. I just need to go somebody who can get it done. I don't care who cuts my hair. I just have like 1 hour on this day. I just need to find somebody to get it done. So there's that piece. So where I think that's relevant as we're talking about dental practices, that's why it's important that somebody's always answering the phone during lunch, at the beginning of the day, after hours. Like, give one of your team members a cell phone, right? Just being able to connect with somebody is huge. But it's also why, sometimes, and this is like a conversation for another day, but why sometimes it's important to consider the hours that you're working. If you're working 8 to 4, the same time that everybody else is working, and your practice is struggling, one of the things you can do is just change it up. Maybe you come in late and work like 10 to 7 or 10 to 8. When all of a sudden you're working those 3 hours at night that nobody else is working, that's a way to attract more patients. So yeah, I think you can categorize into those 2 categories. Now, when it is something more elective, and when it is something, you said, it's almost like it doesn't hurt enough to where they're going to go out and start searching and getting all these second opinions. But if they could figure out that information easily, I think it would be huge. So the next slide I was going to share with you, this is what I call the old way. and this is just the way we do business. And when you look at dentistry, and the business model of dentistry, it's like the most inefficient sales process known to mankind. So let me walk you through it. And we all do this as dentists. We'll spend thousands of dollars a month. And that could be magazine ads, direct mail, SEO, AdWords. We've got website companies. Some of us are on social media, Facebook ads, even like word of mouth marketing. You're still paying like referral fees to patients, a $50 discount for whoever gets referred in, $50 to the patient referred. That still costs money. But then, so there's all these other things that you're doing to drive leads to the practice. And you're doing it all. It's like you're throwing out a fishing net and you have no idea what you're going to catch. Like, you could catch like a couple bass in there. It could be some catfish, couple crawdads. You're just kind of throwing it out there and just hoping that you can funnel those all in to the practice, and some of those people want to move forward with treatment. But this is the crazy part. And this is where it blows my mind that we still do this. Where do we send all those leads?
No, I gotta stop for just a second
Yeah.
as I'm looking at this. So the first, in the profitability formula, the first variable is visits, and under that is new patients. And I'm looking at this thinking, how many practices out there right now, for those that are even watching this right now, are participating in some type of marketing campaign that involves what we're seeing on the screen right now? Whether it's the direct mail, the magazine ads, there's all your local coupon books, and whatever it is that you're doing there, your AdWords online, Google AdWords, your social media, and how many of that, I mean, how much of that is actually working? Like, are you taking the time to track those that are coming in, let alone get them through the whole process of them starting as a new patient in your practice? Like, there's a lot that has to happen.
Yeah. And you have, the crazy thing about it is you have no control over who's going to see those ads or see that, that sponsored ad on a Google search or get that mailer. So you can market, but you have no control over who comes to see you. And that's why sometimes we'll get through that whole new patient appointment and we just spend an hour with somebody and we go and present fees and they're like, oh, I thought crowns were only $400. Like the guy down the street's only charging $400. Or I thought insurance was going to pay for all this. It's not their fault. It's just they don't know any better. And so they're doing the best they can. But going back to this, like, so making your point, we spend all that money, you don't even know if it's working. And then you drive every lead to a phone call that 40% of the time doesn't get answered. That's statistics. Okay. That's either they call before you open, they call after you close, or they call during lunch, or the line's busy. Then it does get answered. And who do you have answering that phone call? Is it some like $120,000 a year master phone salesperson that's going to like close all these leads? No, it's usually like a $14 an hour employee that has a sweet voice, and like we just pay them to answer phones and schedule people. So that alone right there, the inefficiencies there are mind-boggling. Then if they do, let's say everything goes well on the phone call. Now we just got to hope that they show up, which is out of our control. Kids get sick, cars break down, traffic, COVID happens, bad weather, whatever it may be. Sometimes people just forget. Now they've got to show up. So that's one more spot in the sales cycle where those leads can like fall out of the cycle. Then we have to walk in and be master communicators and connect with these people. They have no idea who we are. We have no idea who they are. They're in an uncomfortable, awkward environment. Like you're about to look in their mouth and you're running late 30 minutes because the CEREC machine broke and you have 2 hygiene visits to do. Now we got to walk in and Jerem, for dentists, I'm sorry I'm going off on a tangent, but listen, this is important stuff because for dentists, we all know what this feels like because we walk in the room and it's like, so tell me about yourself. And it's like this forced conversation of like back and forth. Oh, how many kids you have? Oh, great. Okay, let's look in your mouth. And it's not that it's a bad thing, but it's when you look at like the psychology of communication, psychology of sales, it's a difficult place to start. Now we're going to give them a laundry list of items to do. Now we're going to like put in front of them a bunch of Dentrix printouts of all their different options. And finally, like the one thing that most people want to know is how much is it going to cost? We do that at the very end and we hit them with that big surprise. And we do it without their spouse present. Most people nowadays make financial decisions with somebody, yet we give them all that information without that co-financial decision maker present. And we expect them to go home and explain to their spouse with one sheet of paper why they need to spend $5,000, $8,000 on treatment. So, I mean, I think we get so used to talking in these numbers every day of 2,000 here, 5,000 here, 8,000 here. I mean, geez, 20,000, 30,000 for big cases. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money to anybody. And to expect the patient to go home and try to get buy-in from the spouse. Anyway, I'll shut up now, but you can see the inefficiencies of what happens in our process. And that's why 30 to 50% national average, that's case acceptance on elective treatment. Invisalign, sleep apnea, porcelain veneers, composite veneers, changing out, old fillings with porcelain or composite, whatever it may be, elective treatment, 30 to 50%. So we spend all the money, we go through all that, and we do 30, 50%. And then we're just like, all right, we just got to get more new patients in so we can get more case acceptance of 30 and 50%.
Oh man, so I have so many questions that like keep popping in my head with this. So you just nailed it. Like the natural reaction for any human is going to be more. I got to get more in. I've got to get more patients in. And I'm just going to stop and pose the question. Is there one, as a practicing dental professional and dentist, like, are you doing the dentistry you want to do? Right? I mean, you paid a heavy price in time and monetarily to become a professional and an expert and to do dentistry. And if you're not doing the dentistry that has inspired you or that you're passionate about, then that's a whole other conversation and topic. But two, if maybe they kind of are, Brian, is it possible to fill your practice with optimal patients?
Yeah, so two things. I think most dentists, their dream would be to only do the dentistry they love. Because there's doctors out there that are amazing at implants. Mm-hmm. It's like, if you could just show up every day and only do implants, yeah, how great would that be? And there's doctors that love ortho or doctors that love cosmetics. The problem is, one, we don't give ourselves permission as dentists to do that. We get in our own way and we think, well, no, I can't do that because because it's the way it's always been done. I've got to kind of just do everything and make everybody happy and be the dentist here. So that's problem number one. The second problem is, a saying that my wife said to me 3.5 years ago, that totally made me pivot in my practice. We were talking one night. I had done 2 smile design cases in one day and 3 consults. That was it. And I was telling her that night how the day went. And I'm like, man, if I could just show up every day and only do that, how rad would that be? And I remember her there laying in bed. She's like, well, why don't you just do that then? And in my head, I'm like, she obviously doesn't understand business. Like, you can't only do the stuff you love. It's impossible. She's like, no, Brian, the problem is everyone knows you're a dentist, but nobody knows what you do. She's like, you got people in the neighborhood, people we went to high school with, people we go to church with. They all know you're a dentist, but they have no idea what you do because they've never come into your practice and seen it. And they're not going to be online searching, clicking 8 clicks deep into the website to look at your before and afters. She's like, you just have to get in front of more people. It's like that's why you should be on social media. And that's an hour-long conversation itself. But that is when everything changed, because then when I started to learn how I could share with the world, hey, this is who I am and this is like what I do, what I really do every day, all of a sudden, like, more and more people started coming to me because they knew what I did. So it's not a matter. So that's the second piece of it. One, giving yourself permission to only do what you love. But two, it's knowing how to get in front of more people so that you can attract more of those people that need that kind of dentistry. That's the missing link that most people don't know. Most dentists would say, yeah, I'd only love to do what I'd love to do, but I just don't know how to get only those types of new patients in the practice.
So what would be a good way if someone is out there putting out the material to attract those people, what is the best way for them to start sorting, maximizing time, even screening, if you will, so that the chair is filled with that dentistry they want to be doing?
Yeah. So first you have to figure out what is your vehicle for getting the word out there. And you can go back and do all these things, right? You can just continue to do what you're doing marketing wise. I'm going to show you kind of a different way of bringing people into the practice. The other way is like, stop doing all this and start doing more of like this stuff that's free, but just get really good at it and get in front of more people. So imagine if you so you have to think about it. There's barriers, right? There's people out there right now that are self-conscious of their smile or that need a dentist. They don't know those 3 things, but they also like if there was a way for it to be easier, if they didn't have to get a babysitter, take time off work, drive across town, get all these second opinions, if there was a way for them just to get their questions answered very quickly, that's a way that you get in front of more people. Because the easier you make it for people, the more leads you're going to have. I think it was Mark Cuban, he said, make your product easier to buy than your competition, or you're going to find them buying from them and not you. So if you make the process really easy for people, and that's, essentially that's what we did with Smile Virtually, is we took this same process. We took, hey, take what you're doing right now for marketing, but instead of driving them to a phone call and making them come all the way down to see you, send them to a virtual consult first. And I'm not talking live like this, because it's hard. This doesn't make sense, what we're doing right now, for doctors to get in front of patients and do these live consults every single day. It's not a good use of our time. But if there was a way that you could capture their information, see what they wanted to change, see what they were interested in, and then take 5 to 10 minutes, record a video for them, walk them through different options, share cost breakdown, build trust with them. If you could do all that and then say, hey, I'd love to work with you. If you feel like I'm a good fit for you, then we'd love to have you in our practice, and let's get you scheduled. So think about that process. Now you get in front of more people. And so that's why in doing these virtual consults, we're at 90% case acceptance. Why? Because by the time, so my patients now, I never see a new patient unless they've gone through a virtual consult with me first. Because in 1 hour, I can do 6 virtual consults. So I just know now how to get in front of a lot more people. And that's what we teach doctors how to do, is how do you get in front of a ton more people? Now in an hour, I can get in front of 6 people, spend 10 minutes with each of them on my own time, recording videos, sending. I don't have to talk with them live. I give them, a way to know who I am, build the trust, show the type of dentistry I do, explain the cost, so that when they actually do show up in the chair, maybe only 2 of them, let's be like pessimistic, maybe only 2 of the 6 show up. The difference now is every single person that's in my chair is closing at 90%. So that's how I, in my practice, went from, $10,000 a day was my goal in production, which is, I think it's a great goal. I went from doing that for years, probably 13, 14 years. And now for the last 3 years, I'm at like 23,000 a day. I changed nothing else except learned how to get in front of more people and screen the people, so the people that I spend time with are the ones that are ready to buy.
Oh my gosh, that's so huge. So I'm going to point out a couple things here. I love the title of your previous slide, The Old Way.
Yeah.
And the reason I like that is old doesn't necessarily mean bad, right? Like but there is an upgrade in technology, which when an upgrade in technology comes, and I would venture to say, and I'm not a dentist, but I'm venturing to say that there's probably tools that maybe you used 15 years ago when you first started practicing that you're not necessarily using today because technology has advanced, right? Whatever that might be.
Well, yeah, not to cut you off, but yeah, for years, we had like 8 paper trackers that we'd fill out every day, and our team would fill them out, and there'd be these numbers, and then we never would even take the time to calculate it or even know what we were doing. So it's the analogy you're talking about right now for me is like when we used to track everything on paper versus now where I open my dental intel platform for the day, and it's like in 2 seconds I see everything. I see all my opportunities. I see all the stats. So to me, that's like the old way and the new way. It's not that the old way was bad. It's just super inefficient.
Yep. And that's exactly what I'm getting at with the virtual consult. Like for those watching, you might get a little anxiety looking at that. Like, oh, what does that mean? Like, what do I got to do? I got to get uncomfortable. I got to get in front of a camera. When in all reality is when we hear, and I'm just going to challenge our viewers, when you see an upgrade in technology, you have to know there has to be an upgrade in our thinking. Because if we don't upgrade the way that we think here, then the technology that we have to be more efficient and do better dentistry won't happen. There will always be a disconnect. Both have to upgrade. And so I love the virtual consult, because you're really allowing this place, and I've seen a couple of these platforms, and they're brilliant. They're amazing, where you can sort through and meet and start building that relationship in a very direct but indirect way. I mean, it's not live, but it is live, right? And so you're able to sort that through and prepare. So when someone is sitting in the chair, you're maximizing the treatments, the procedures, and the time in the chair, which is going to be good for the patient, good for the practice. So I love this process that you've got here, where before you even, I mean, gosh, the old way, you're still going through a 10-step process, and then you got to talk to the spouse, right?
I know.
How many times have we been there and you've gotten all the way to the finish line and you're like, let's punch this through. And they're like, I got to go talk to my husband. He's got to sign off on this. I need it. And it's like, how is she going to explain to him the desperate need she has to get this dentistry done?
Yeah.
Right.
It's so true. And they're always going to think like, oh, this guy's trying to rip you off. Let's get another opinion. So let's talk about that for a minute. Let's go the old way of the spouse getting a piece of paper and being like, what is this? Like, your teeth aren't that crooked. You don't need to spend $6,000. Right. So it's like that. Or imagine the new way. They don't even have to say anything to the spouse. You know, imagine the new way is you see the patient in the chair, they leave, you take a few minutes, and it's just like, hey, Jenny, it was awesome seeing you today. You know, I wanted to go through really quick a couple photos just to make sure that we're both on the same page of what we talked about. You can see here in this photo how things are crooked on these lower teeth and why that's causing inflammation. And you can see, you know, if we can just simply straighten those teeth up a little bit, what it'll do for you. And like, hey, there's no pressure, there's no stress. Like, when you're ready, we're here for you. We'll make it real easy from a financial standpoint. Just know that, like, that's our main goal is to help you. And you just let us know when you're ready. Imagine the husband seeing that. And if you really want to get crazy, you can get in there of like, hey, congratulations on the new baby. You know, I can't imagine what it'd be like carrying a baby like that for 9 months. Like, you deserve something like this, you know, like you can like really start to play games with the spouse, knowing that they're going to watch this video. Like, now they can't say no. Right. And so my point is, I almost don't like to use the word virtual consult, because it's synonymous with teledentistry, and teledentistry doesn't work. This idea of taking what we do as dentists and taking it virtual and live and helping people and charging people to give advice, that is not the business model that we want as dentists, right? We make our money doing procedures. Telemedicine works great for doctors because that's how they make their money, is giving advice, getting in front of people, taking notes, writing scripts. They're doing the same thing they do in person. They're just doing it on a computer in front of somebody. It's the same business, just different model. For us though, teledentistry is not how we make money. And so it's almost like I want to say, let's stop calling it virtual consults. Let's stop calling it teledentistry. And it's almost like the new way of presenting treatment, like the new way of exploding your case acceptance, because really it's more about treatment communication and controlling the sales process than it is about anything else. I'm going to back up real quick, because, you know, it's taking all these things and you're just finding out a way to, instead of doing all this marketing and then waiting for people to come to you, I call it waiting versus creating. It's like you do the marketing, you wait, and you're like, oh, good, new patient. Or creating, where it's do all the marketing and then you just get in front of people wherever they are. Instead of being at their mercy, hoping they come to see you, you just get in front of them wherever they are. And now you're in control of that process. It's a total mindset shift though.
It's necessary though. I mean, you're obviously doing something right with this process, and I know the growth that you've had inside of your practice, and really getting to the point where you're doing the dentistry that you want to do. And I'd love to just take the next couple minutes and close down and ask you a question and have you tell the audience what it feels like to be doing the dentistry that you want to do. I mean, kind of walk us through a little bit what's taken place in your practice over the last 3 years, and the freedom and the fulfillment and the joy that you experience as a healthcare provider?
Yeah, I think I used the word earlier, but I'm going to use it again because it really is a pivot. It's like you're going throughout life down a certain path and you're practicing dentistry every day. And whatever that is for you, you know what it feels like because it's your reality. You wake up, you show up at the office, whatever you're doing right now, to be able to take that and to say, hey, what if I could pivot, and what if I could only do the stuff I love? And that's not to say there's not stress. I only do porcelain veneer cases. That's how it's been for almost 3 years. And there's a whole different level of stress with that, right? But I love doing it. And so it's a different kind of stress. And so to be able to wake up and only do the stuff that I love I can't even explain it. It took me from a place of feeling like, can I really do this for the next 20, 30 years? To a place of like, I could do this until I'm sick of doing it because it's way more profitable. It's way more enjoyable. And I feel like I'm able to have, a real big impact on people's lives. And so somebody explained it to me this way one time. It's like, you can be like 2 feet deep and a mile wide, which means like you can go and try to be good at everything. You can do ortho and sleep apnea and implants and sedation and Invisalign. I did that at one time. Like I was trying to do everything. I had CEREC machine, cone beam, everything. And it's not a bad way to practice. We were still profitable and it was still a very successful business. But the second I decided, instead of going 2 feet deep and a mile wide, to go like 2 feet wide and a mile deep on something, it changed everything, because now I can focus on what I love. And we've got associates there that now can do the stuff that they love. And it really is, it's a new way of thinking about dentistry. So I guess my closing thoughts would be, give yourself the permission as a dentist to be happy. Give yourself the permission to do what you love. And yeah, you still sometimes have to do the stuff that you don't necessarily love to do. It's part of running a business. But if you get out of your own way, and if you give yourself the permission, you have the potential to really transform your practice. And that's not just me saying that, like selling the dream. I mean, we've got 500 different practices using these same principles right now that are all in different levels of growth. And it's like, that for me is what's exciting, to be able to see the principles like impact other people's lives. It's the difference of having, impact just on my family or my patients versus having impact on patients all over the world and doctors all over the world. So yeah, I mean, I feel like it's a true blessing, and I'll close with saying, like, thank you to you guys truly for giving me the tools to be able to see where we're at, to giving us that snapshot every day to see where we still have room to improve. That report you just gave me 3 months ago, I think it uncovered at least another $300. Yeah, $300. Thank you for that. At least another $300,000 just between then and the end of this year, just by changing our fees and changing the procedures that we're doing. So yeah, just, trust the process and give yourself permission to be successful is what I would say.
Cool, man. Well, gosh, Brian, thank you so much. And on behalf of Dental Intel, thank you, and all of our viewers and audience. We thank you for who you are and this awesome, rad discussion on visits and increasing new patients and the most effective way to do that. We're excited to have Brian come back next week. We're going to talk a little bit about case acceptance when he gets back. And specifically with that, as we mentioned, the profitability formula, this is going to fall into the category of production per visit. So as we're filling the top of the funnel, so to speak, as we're getting more people into the practice to do that dentistry, what are we doing to ensure that we're really closing those treatments that are being presented, that the people are really catching the vision and are given all options, and we're doing it in a very respectful, honorable, tactful way. And I'm super excited to see what Dr. Brian Harris is going to bring with us. So join us next week. Brian, thank you so much. Have a good weekend, buddy. We appreciate you.
Awesome. Thank you. It was an honor. Thanks, guys.
We'll see you.